Hey everybody, Dr. Steve here, and I have an extra special guest with me in this video. You're going to absolutely love it. Before we jump in, I want to let you know that I'll be hosting a free webinar with him this coming Thursday, September 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. If it's after that date, you can still click below and watch the recording. We're walking you through the process of how to find your voice and take back culture by writing and publishing your own dream book. Click on that link in the description below to join our free webinar before spots fill up. Enjoy the interview. All right, there, everyone. Awesome to welcome Chandler Bolt to our Patriot Live conference. If you don't know Chandler, you're going to be very glad that you do now. Chandler is one of the most exciting Patriot entrepreneurs out there. He's the CEO of SelfPublishing School and selfpublishing.com. If you Self-Publishing School, get this, it is an Inc. 5000 company. So that means it's one of the 5,000 fastest growing private companies in the US. All right. He's the author of 6 best-selling books, including his most recent book titled Publish. He's a podcaster. He's a YouTuber. And his students are super successful in publishing their books. And you all are the next to precisely do that. So Chandler, it is so awesome to have you with us. Welcome.
Dr. Turley, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now, for those who don't know, you do have quite the backstory to how you got involved in self-publishing, which we're going to have to talk about how it's really revolutionizing the whole publishing industry. But in terms of your backstory, I think the last time you and I talked, I asked you if you were, well, obviously you're a whiz in English class, right? You were an A+ writer in academia and all that good stuff, right?
Absolutely not. I'm a C-level English student and a college dropout with ADHD. So kind of the last person you'd expect to write books, but as they say, sometimes the worst player is the best coach, or the worst student is the best teacher, because you know what it feels like to be bad at something and to not get it. And so I think my greatest weakness became one of my biggest strengths, which is the ability to take something complicated and make it simple. And so that's what we try to do with books, is take the idea of writing a book, which a lot of people think, wow, that's complicated. I can never do that. I'm not a writer, all those things. And they can, hopefully be inspired from my story, see how I've done it. And then my goal is to make it ADHD friendly, to make it simple, to make, kind of put together steps, because that's what I really needed. So I kind of end up creating what I needed, but didn't have. And then hopefully in a way that's really helpful for folks.
Do you have that on as a sticker on your books, ADHD friendly?
I don't, but maybe I should. I think it's in the book description. And that is one comment that I get a lot, is because there's a lot of pictures. It's funny. I'm actually working on an updated and revised version of this book right now. So this is published. This is my, it's cut off the corner because I'm editing it and all that stuff. But there's a lot of pictures and there's a lot of graphs. There's like fill in the blanks. There's stuff like that. And that's the comment I get all the time is oh, it's an easy to read and easy to digest, which I think is the goal for any book. But especially the goal when I'm teaching people to write books, so that it makes it a little bit more approachable and digestible.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let's dive in a little bit on this whole revolution to self-publishing, because I've done both. You and I've talked before, so I've gone with publishers and I've self-published, and I definitely side on self-publishing. Give us a sense of the significance of this. How is this a super exciting new opportunity for people who have always wanted to publish a book?
Well, I think it's exciting in a lot of ways, and it's both accessible in a way that it's never been before, and it's also more advantageous. So, it used to be that the only way to get to sell books was to get into bookstores, and to get into bookstores, you had to have a publishing deal, right? So if you didn't have a publishing deal, you're not getting to bookstores. Not getting to bookstores, you're not selling books. Well, now
an agent and a publishing agent as well.
You got to have an agent. It's like all these. And so there are all these gatekeepers, and that could tell you whether or not that you published and what you publish, which I think is a huge difference. And that's what we've always said at Self-Publishing School, is like our goal is to help voices be heard. And so it doesn't matter if I agree with you. It doesn't matter if I disagree with you. It doesn't matter any of those things. My goal is to help you write a book about what you're passionate about and what you believe in. And I think that's a big difference with, traditional publishers is if I don't agree with this, or if this isn't, if this doesn't pass the legal department or whatever else, we can just say either you have to edit that out or we're not going to publish your book. So I think that's been the big shift. And then really not only that, but I mean, it used to be that self-publishing was the backup plan, and now it's the preferred option for most authors because you get to keep the lion's share of your royalties instead of sharing with your publisher. You get to move through the process faster, and you save a ton of time actually in doing it because you're able to move through the process faster. So that's why I think it's an exciting new opportunity for folks that hasn't existed before, and it's a way to actually create. I mean, if you do it right, mailbox money, where that book's selling. I think we talked about this the last time that we talked is, there's books that you've written years ago that there's royalty checks, mailbox money showing up every single month. And those books are going out and they're making an impact, but they're also, teaching a methodology. They're also bringing in income month after month. And so I think that part's pretty exciting too.
Yeah, it's really neat. My PhD dissertation got published, I think it was 2014, and it was a library edition, and there was a lot of money that had to go into it, particularly in the indexing in the back on all the subjects, because it's an academic book. I have never seen a royalty check from that. Every royalty check I see, they put, a minus whatever the amount is, and it goes to the person who did the indexing. So publishers can take a huge percentage of this. Yes. And then when I discovered self-publishing, I was like, wow. Or I did another one too. I'm not going to say the publishers. I work with a bunch, but I did another one where I got my first royalty check in the mail, and I opened it up, and I kid you not, Chandler, $12. I can't even go to Hardee's with this thing. $12. Now that same publisher is going to publish another book of mine. I decided to go the self-publishing route, and now I get direct deposits every month as a result of that decision. So give us a sense of how this is a Gutenberg moment here historically. Would you say self-publishing is sort of the Gutenberg printing press of the 21st century? Has it opened up publishing to, now that the gatekeepers are gone, as you put it, has it opened up publishing to everyone?
Yeah, I believe it. I really believe that it has, and so there's an opportunity for people to publish what they want to publish and to write books. But I think the flip side of that is because it's easier, you have to be better if you're going to do that. And so we always say your self-published book shouldn't look self-published. Right. And I really believe that we're in the middle of a change and in an era where it's really, this is already happening, but I think it'll even be more so, where it doesn't matter that this is not a question that gets asked is were you self-published, were you traditionally published, whatever. Is this a good book? Right. And if you notice on Amazon and anywhere else that you buy books online, there's usually one little small line that says the publisher. And if you're not an author, you don't know where to look for it, right? So no one cares whether you're traditionally published or not. I mean, there's some status and some ego and some, I'm a traditionally published author in some ways, sure. But outside of that, I really do believe it's a revolution in a way to publish great books and to keep the lion's share of the royalties, like you said, where instead of making 8 to 12% per book, so $1, maybe $2 a book, now you can make 20 to 70%. So $3, $4, $5, $6 or more per book sold, which, I mean, that makes a big difference. And just the ability to publish freely, I think, makes a big difference.
It does. It does. Now let's get practical here, because speaking of publishing freely, I've been looking to write a new book for our growing movement of new conservative patriots as we're building a parallel world of parallel polys free from all things woke. So I've got an idea here, right? I want to write a book about patriots who are taking action and actually building back a world that we all know and love, a world of faith, family, and freedom, completely free from cancel culture and all things woke. Okay, so I'm coming to you with this idea, right? How would you help me with that? What are the steps we take to get this from going from an idea to an actual tangible published book in my hand?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so what I would encourage or what I'd walk you through, and I'd love for everyone here right now to grab a blank sheet of paper, because I want to walk Dr. Turley through this exercise. And I'd love to walk everyone through this as well for your own books. Oh yeah, there we go.
I got mine. I'm ready, man.
So there's a few steps as we get started. So and one of which you've already completed, but I'll walk people through because I think it'll be helpful for folks here. So step number one is getting clear on what you want to write about, right? And there's probably 3 camps here. There's camp number one, which is maybe you have an idea. So if that's you, type in the chat, I have an idea. And then there's camp number 2, which is maybe you're not sure what you want to write about. If that's you, type in the chat, not sure.
Right.
And then it's camp number 3 is you got way too many ideas.
Put too many ideas in the chat. Yeah. I think we're going to see a bunch of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe it's too many ideas, type that in the chat. But so you're probably in one of those 3, right? And so step 1 is getting clear on the idea, which I think Dr. Turley, you just did masterfully. So, I mean, you're very clear on what the book's about. And then as part of that, who's the book for? Who's it not for? Very clear. I think that's
determine your audience, right?
Exactly. And so then next step is when, once you've got the idea, we kind of start the 3-step writing process that we teach. All right. So step number 1 is creating a mind map. You know, most people have heard of mind maps. This is not a new concept. What's new is using it.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember being in an English class, and my teachers would say, "Hey, you need to do an outline before you write your paper." And I was like, "Well, that sounds dumb. Why wouldn't I just start writing the paper? Like, I could use all that time that I was spending on the outline just actually writing." And that's why I wasn't any good at writing papers, because I didn't take the time to do it. Right. So it starts with step number 1, the mind map. And it's funny. I'm in the middle of this right now. So this is a mind map for a brand new book that I'm working on. And so I'm doing an updated and revised version of my book published. And so it started, I went through the content. I said, hey, what's I mind mapped. And so for those of you following along doing this, and normally I'd take a couple minutes to have you do it, but I just say is, once this session's over or the end of today's sessions, take 15 minutes and try to just start mind mapping. And what you want to do is write out ideas that you have, stories that you have, lessons you've learned around this topic. What are maybe the broken record conversations that you just have had over and over and over again around this topic, and just start ideating. Set a timer, and then hopefully towards the end of that timer, you'll have something that starts to look a little bit like this. You got some things kind of brainstorming, right? And so then that step number 1 is creating the mind map. And then what you're going to do is you're going to turn your mind map into an outline. That's step number 2. And so what you'll do here is you'll start to group groups of ideas into groups, or really sections. All right. So maybe you have 5 groups of ideas on that mind map. So now all of a sudden you've got 5 sections. You'll order those in the order that you want to cover them in the book. Right. And then you'll drill down about 3 chapters per section. Right. So now all of a sudden you've got about a 15 chapter outline that you can use to write your book. And again, this is, handy. This is exactly what I'm doing right now. And I wrote chapter number 1 this morning of this book, and I'm working through this outline. And so it's a chapter by chapter outline. In this case, it's 28 chapters. I like short ADD or ADHD friendly chapters. So they're short and punchy, right? So a little bit higher on the chapter count. But then that's step number 2. Sorry, I know a really long-winded answer for this. But then once you've got the outline, you'll move into step number 3, which is to actually write the dang thing. And the way that you'll do that is you'll start as I did this this morning. So you'll start with chapter number 1. And this is an very abbreviated mind map. But you'll mind map everything you can think of on that chapter. Turn that mind map into an outline for that chapter. And so 10 minutes a piece, 10-minute mind map, 10-minute outline, then an hour and a half, 45 minutes to an hour and a half writing the chapter, and repeat that process chapter by chapter by chapter, right? Now, this is one thing this kind of becomes a choose your own adventure. So one thing, Dr. Shirley, that a lot of folks have found helpful, that I think you would as well, is if you speak better than you write, like if that's a more natural form of content creation, well, then just do that, right? So you say 10-minute mind map, 10-minute outline the chapter, then 10 minutes speaking the chapter, get it transcribed, repeat that process chapter by chapter by chapter. So that's the basic stuff that I kind of walk through to get started. I'd probably also layer on some accountability. So publicly proclaiming when are you going to get the book done? Maybe I'll race you to the rough draft.
Yeah. What if I get stuck? What if life gets in the way? I start all excited and a few weeks go by, then life gets in the way. What could you help me through with that?
Yeah. So I think it's important. A couple of things. Number one is getting clear on why you're doing this in the beginning. So funny you mentioned this, because this is the chapter in my book that I was writing this morning is about why it's important that you as Simon Sinek would say, start with why. But you have a clear why, and that you have a clear why now. Like, why is this something that is important for me to do in my life right now? And that's clear from the beginning. And you put that somewhere you can see it, because I think it's not a matter of if you hit a dead end, but when. And so you need that why to carry you through. And so I saw kind of what I was writing this morning is like, I think it comes down to, there's New York Times says that 81% of people want to write a book. We know that less than 1% of people actually do it. Well, why is that? Wow. I think it's probably three things. Number one, they don't have a clear, compelling why and why now. Right. Number two, they don't have a proven process to follow. And then number three, they don't have commitment or accountability to keep going when things get tough. And so that's what I would say is a lot of people will fall off the wagon. It's because they're missing one. They can just be missing one of those three things, and that can be enough to fall off the wagon. And so really making sure that you have, accountability. I'm a big fan of public accountability partner. There's a process that you're following, and there's a strong why to keep going when it gets tough.
It's interesting because in many respects, I think you're fulfilling a default role of the publisher, because one of the roles of the publisher is to provide precisely that kind of accountability.
You got a deadline.
You got a deadline, buddy, and you need to make it. And if you don't, we gotta make sure we're rescheduling things properly so that you can do it. And if you have this kind of accountability that you're providing, then it's going to be able to, because we don't hold ourselves accountable. None of us do. We're just too easily distracted. So you've got to have at least some kind of structure in place. I love it. I think that's exactly what you're doing, which leads me to the question. So we do have a lot of aspiring authors with us today, in our audience. As a matter of fact, every time we do a Conservative Patriot live event, whenever we ask who wants to write a book, I think that's probably the most popular goal that most of our audience has. So can you help them through this process step by step to go from idea to tangible published book in their hand?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's what we do all day, every day. And that's what we love doing. And so our goal, and so at Self-Publishing School, we're kind of like an incubator for books, right? And so we our goal is we help people write and publish books in as little as 90 days that grow their impact, their income, and their business if they have one. And so that's, I know we've already had a good amount of folks from your audience kind of working with us. And I know that we've partnered together to help get some books done as part of this event. And so that's basically what we do. And we kind of flip it to where, the end goal is publishing a book that sells well. Right. And so what we try to do is we break down what are the milestones to get there. And there's about 7 milestones. And so then we have all these resources that support basically you taking your next step in the milestone. And so, there's curriculum that we've set up to walk people through this process. We start with a half-day virtual workshop where they make a ton of progress on their book. And then there's one-on-one coaching calls, there's group coaching calls, there's all those things to just kind of help people keep going through the process. And then, like you said, kind of fulfilling the role of the publisher on the accountability side of things is we see where people are at in the process. and where they drop off. And then
Mhm.
we'll actively reach out and say, hey, looks like you've been stuck in the rough draft phase for a while. Like, how can we help you? Let's keep going and keep moving forward in the process. So through all that, I think we were running stats recently. I think that it's a little over 80% of our students that join self-publishing school write and publish their book in less than a year. And
Wow.
so if there's one thing we're good at, it's helping people actually get their books done, and
Wow.
writing a great book. And our goal is to help people in 3 ways. So we want to save them hundreds of hours in the process. And we do save them hundreds of hours in the process. So if time is money. If you value your time at $20 an hour, that's thousands of dollars worth of your time, right? And then we want to save them hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the process. So we've negotiated exclusive discounts with editors, cover designers, formatters, you name it. That'll
Wow.
save them a ton of money in the process. And then we want to help them actually get their book done, and write a great book that sells well. And so that's how we help people. And that's why we're excited to partner with you guys as part of this event to help people get some books done.
It just struck me, dawned upon me. I just remember you worked with Eileen, didn't you? Eileen
Yeah.
Wilder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So way
amazing.
back in the day, Eileen was one of our first students, and she wrote and published her book, The Brave Body Method.
Yeah.
And so she was on a training kind of like this. And at the end of the training, she was like, hey, I'm not even really totally sure what I want to write about, but I trust you guys. I trust the process. Let's do this. And we helped her write and publish the book. The book, self-published, did so well,
Yeah.
sold so many copies. Next thing she knew, she was front and center in Barnes & Noble. So just so cool, and such a great message with that book. And it's been inspiring just to see her take off ever since then, and just see her business growing and all that. So that's been really, really cool.
It is cool, Chandler. That it is. It's amazing. Maybe we're going to have to do something like this. I think there may be an opportunity for all of us here who want to join me in working with you to create our books. I think we're onto something here. I think I'm gonna work with you, and I'm gonna bring all these guys with me. We're gonna work together and see in the next few months how many tangible, real, physical books, because there's no feeling in the world. And you know this. There's no feeling in the world to have your ideas get incarnated, quite literally, embodied in a finished book with a beautiful cover and just a typeset with the chapters and the page numbers. And then, of course, the best part, the author biography, of course, the picture.
Well, that sounds exciting. And so there'll be some good public accountability. And I'll race you guys. I'm only one chapter in as of today.
We're all going to do it together.
So I'll race you to the published line, and then we'll get some books published. We'll change some lives through those books. And
awesome.
We always say this. I know Dr. Turley, we talked about this previously, but I believe that books change lives.
Yeah,
they change the lives of the readers that read these books, but then they change the lives of the authors. We always say it's not about the book; it's about who you become in the process of writing and publishing that book. So we believe that we run a personal development company that helps people with books, right? But books are the mechanism for just all these life skills, and even just this morning, I mean, I'm getting reminded of, this book is forcing me to crystallize ideas that I have into the written word.
Yeah.
And that's a process that where you grow and learn and evolve. And I think it's a lot of fun. And that's why I get up every morning excited.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that virtually every major civilizational world religion is based on a sacred book. Absolutely. Chandler Bolt, everyone. Chandler, thank you so much for what you do and for helping so many leave a lasting legacy in this world. You are most appreciated.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Isn't Chandler amazing? Don't forget to join me and Chandler on Thursday, September 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as we dive into the nitty-gritty of how to write a book. I'll be there taking my notes too, so click on the link in the description below. Sign up now. Hope to see you on Thursday. God bless.